Wheel of Genre, the show for readers who want to live forever. We have just figured out the next 5 books that we are going to read together. And they're all centered around this theme of immortality and what does it mean to be immortal? What happens when we're immortal? We just want to explore the idea of immortality in science fiction, a little bit of literary fiction, and just see what happens. So, Bob, what's our first book?
1 second, I was totally thinking you were going to say, we just discovered the route to immortality. First book is Book of Skulls by Robert Silverberg. And Zach, I have a terrible confession. I know we decided we weren't going to read any of the books yet until we start this. I'm almost done with this book. It is so good. If you like the character development that Stephen King does when he's really on his game, like at top-notch that's Book of Skulls. It's incredible. It's a road trip book. These 4 boys, well, they're college students, so they're 21, 20 and a half. They discover this book. One translates this book that is about a secret society. They're called the Society of Skulls. And what happens is if you go there, you can get immortality, but there is a huge catch. Do you know the catch yet, Zach?
I do know the catch, yes. Okay. But I'll tell you how I know the catch. It's because the author makes sure you know it because it's written on the front cover of the book and the title page.
I've been living off PDFs. So the catch is 4 people have to go. So these 4 roommates decide to go. Now the catch is one must die. They have to kill one and the other must commit suicide. So only 2 can walk out of this alive, but if they walk out of it alive, they are immortal. It is a wild ride. The writing is extremely good, and I wish it were a movie. Like, this needs to be turned into a movie. It's such a good book.
Yeah. So Robert Silverberg, he is a famed SF and fantasy author. We have previously encountered him when we read every short story in Harlan Ellison's Dangerous Visions anthology. He did the short story Flies. This novel is a little bit different, though. As best as I can tell, it's not science fiction or fantasy. It's a little bit more grounded in realism. Would you say that's accurate?
I watched a really great video from Steve from Outlaw Bookseller, and he had such a good point. He said, it's kind of in what we used to call the slipstream. So it's not really sci-fi, it's not really fantasy. It won an award or was nominated an award for sci-fi category. But Steve says, think about it as like Schrodinger's cat. We don't know if it's sci-fi or if it's not until Silverberg comes out and explains it all to us. And he says, but hopefully he never will.
I like this image of Schrodinger's cat, and I feel like I don't want to say it's a shame, but, we've really kind of built this show, first as a podcast and now on YouTube, around the idea of exploring different genres as though they are self-contained pots of honey that we could dip our spoon in and then move on to the next flavor, so to speak. But now we're given a book that really seems to not want to tell you exactly what it is. It will allude to possibly being this or possibly being that, but it really defies the very conventions which we've built this whole thing on. And you know what? It's kind of fun. We're lumping it in with SF books, but I can tell right now that it's going to be a very uneasy fit.
It's an uneasy fit. It doesn't feel like sci-fi throughout the book. But Steve from Outlaw Bookseller was saying, it might have been a time when lots of sci-fi writers were trying to get into realistic fiction or literary fiction. And he was saying, I never thought about this point, but he says, when we think about literary fiction, we judge it by James Joyce. We judge it by the top of the top. And we say, oh, literary fiction is great. Realistic fiction is great. But when we judge science, when other people judge science fiction, they usually go by the lowest common denominator and they think, oh, it's not real fiction because they're reading the very worst of the stuff and that's how they judge it. But if you look at Robert Silverberg and the style of this writing and the high quality of this writing, it's not fair at all to judge a whole genre by the lowest common denominator. I really liked Steve's point there.
So, Bob, what's our second book that we're going to be reading for this sequence?
Second book is The Boat of a Million Years. Now, again, with Dangerous Visions, we have read Paul Anderson before, and we weren't super sure on it. I think we got a little bit of flack, some probably well-deserved flack, but that was Utopia, and it was an interesting narrative until it just seemed kind of like a punchline for the rest of the story. But here, this book is going to be nuts. I was looking at a description of it. It goes from 3,500 BC up to 1975 AD, and then just the future. So it just goes and goes and goes, because there are kind of like the chrysalids, actually. There's all these people who are just born immortal, and they don't know there are other immortals. And like the chrysalids, who start communicating with each other and finding each other out telepathically, the immortals just happen to start bumping into each other. Eventually they decide, let's get on a spaceship. So I'm excited to see where it goes, Zach.
This might literally just be the plot of the Eternals, the Marvel movie. I'm not sure. But I'm excited to find out how it's different. The plot summary I read makes it seem like, very, very similar to that movie. But I'm kind of a sucker for this concept of like a single character or group of characters and then following them through different time periods. It's almost like a time travel story, but I think that it's going to be very interesting. I think that a time travel story asks very different questions than an immortality story. You know what I mean? Like a time travel seems to be centered around the idea of how do societies change. Maybe immortality does too, but I think that what I really want to know is what makes Earth so uninhabitable for them. Why does human society lose its allure for a group of people to where they feel like they now need to head out amongst the stars? And what will they find there?
Travel to the stars. Whoa. I'm excited to see if it's similar at all to Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke, because at that point when the aliens come down, they give us everything. We get tired of everything. Everything's boring. I wonder if that's going to happen to these people in a boat of a million years. Are they going to get bored? Well, let's not be bored in the stars, Zach. We got more books to read. What is our next book for Immortality?
Well, kind of about immortality. We're actually doing a thematic twist up on this one. This is by personal favorite, Philip K. Dick. We are reading Dr. Futurity. Now, this is not an immortality story. Actually, quite the opposite. This is a time travel story where a man wakes up in the future into a society where you are not allowed to help the sick. In fact, this is a society that values death, worships death, possibly, encourages people to die as soon as possible in order to maintain consistent population levels. Now, why would we include this in a sequence of stories about immortality? Can you truly understand vanilla if you've never ever had chocolate? That's the question that I intend to ask with this book. I want to see characters argue for death amidst our long run of books arguing for life.
Oh, the soft serve swirl of life and death, Zach. This book reminds me a lot of Zardoz, and that's why I'm most excited to read it. That movie your brother recommended, which was just a pure masterpiece. The penis is evil. The gun is good. What a wild ride. I wonder if this will be like that, because in this weird time travel story, the main character, I don't even know his name anymore. He goes, I haven't read the book. He goes into the future, goes into this crazy death cult. It seems a little bit like Zardoz, because when he tries to save a girl's life, they have to come after him and stop him because you can't save people's lives. Everything is planned. And so he gets banished. And then it becomes a weird, crazy time travel, almost like Zardoz, where everyone is trying to collapse this weird utopia in on itself because it's too horrible.
Last time we read Philip K. Dick, I remember there was this moment where you brought up how every time I start a Philip K. Dick novel, I think,
oh yeah,
maybe this one won't be so good. I don't know about the concept of it. But then by the end of it, you're like, oh, how could I ever doubt the dick? And I'm counting on this being more of the same good dick, just the same classic writing from the author that we love.
More good dick coming up. What? So after that, we're reading The Immortal by Jorge Luis Borges. And you've read some Borges. I've read some Borges. This is published in 1947. I've read this story, but many, many years ago. Have you read this story before, Zach?
Yeah, Borges is one of those authors who, at one point in my life, I sat down and read everything that he'd published, and now I remember almost nothing of it. So, I loved it. I loved it when I read it, but it all just kind of gets, lost in the wash. So I'm so excited to return to him.
I'm really excited. I watched a little review by a YouTuber called Victor Heisbers. His name is Gijsbers. He's really great. He reads philosophical papers and then novels and tries to connect them. And he had a really great video on the Immortal. And as he was describing it, have you ever been to the Sarah Winchester Mystery House?
No.
It's nuts. People say it's nuts, and then you go and you realize, oh, this is nuts. You're in the house, and she thought the ghosts were pursuing her, so she had all these architects, all these builders constantly building new rooms and even building rooms that might control ghosts. That's the legend anyway. People also suggest that she was just experimenting because she also studied architecture. But when you go there, you open like a window, and it's a little door, and it just drops like 2 stories to the floor. There's no stairs or anything. Everything is strangely put together. The Immortals have done this in their own city because they are so tired of the order of eternity. And so they've put chaos into the eternity, and even that loses their interest. But Borges is a true master, and I remember this story just being absolutely horrifying. So I'm excited. What is our final book, Zach? What is our final thing to bring home immortality? How are we going to live forever?
We are reading a new author for us. At least I've never read him before. Robert A. Heinlein, Time Enough for Love. So this is the story of Lazarus Long, the oldest living human at about 2,000 years old. But I guess at some point maybe he loses the will to live. So the book is people prompting him for stories from his life. So it's kind of an episodic. Imagine your favorite uncle telling you, those Randy and Wild stories from their youth. It's kind of in the structure of, maybe Dan Simmons Hyperion or 1001 Arabian Nights or Scheherazade, just little episodic tales from the life of an immortal man.
I think this is the book I am most excited to read. I watched Grammaticus's books video, and he said, this is Heinlein's most controversial novel. And then he says, hands down, not even a contest. And I've read a few. I've read Stranger in a Strange Land. I think I've read Starship Troopers. I've read a couple short stories. And Stranger in a Strange Land was like, probably not going to fly. Now, I wonder how controversial this book can actually be. I'm thrilled for this. Time Enough for Love.
Yeah. Yeah. Very saucy title. I'm really curious where he takes this. Well, I think that we're going to have a really good time. I think that organizing our readings thematically rather than strictly by genre is a new thing for us, but I think it's going to be really, really productive in terms of our conversations. And, as always, I want to extend the invite to listeners and viewers. You guys, read along with us. Send us your questions, comment along with us, and let's explore books together.
Explore books, Zach. I'm not in this for books. I'm in it for immortality. We're going to find out how to live forever. If you want that, comment now.
All right. I will talk to you later, Bob.
Talk to you later. Maybe thousands of years later.